What's good, Green Screen Entertainment fans? Your boy Jay Green is back. This weekend, I'm bringing you Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Now, everybody and their mama knows what Star Wars is, and if for some reason you don't, you must have been hiding under a rock all these years because Star Wars is generational. But what you might not know is Rogue One is not a sequel to last year's smash hit Force Awakens. Rogue One is a prequel to the original Star Wars film, Episode 4, A New Hope. In Episode 4, A New Hope, the Rebel Alliance is going up against the Empire, the biggest, baddest, most ruthless gang in the entire galaxy. These cats got this big old thing called the Death Star.
That's no moon. It's a space station.
Now this thing can blow up planets, so you know they're trying to give this weapon of mass destruction up out of there. This movie, Rogue One, is about the SEAL Team 6, if you will, and how they were able to steal the plans to the infrastructure of the Death Star in order to destroy it. Now, straight off the top, I'm going to put my fandom aside and I'm going to tell y'all like this. I did love this movie. This movie was directed by Gareth Edwards, and it is the first Star Wars spin-off movie. Now, even though it's a Star Wars spin-off movie, it is still canon. Canon basically means that it follows the proper timeline of the saga and the characters that we grew up with. Now, with that said, you can look at this movie in two different ways, and both of those ways are great. If you are already a fan of Star Wars, if you have a big love for this saga that is Star Wars, you are going to have some great enjoyment from this movie because you finally get to see the story we've heard so much about. For a long time, we've heard a lot about how the rebels got the plans to destroy the Death Star, and we finally get to see it play out, and it's amazing. If you're not that big of a fan of Star Wars, you don't really know all these details, you're going to get a great heist film. That's what it is. It's a heist film at its heart. You got a group of characters coming together. They got a job to do, and we get to watch all this adventure play out on screen while they do what they got to do in order to save the galaxy, if you will. Now, let me talk about some of the key players in this movie. You got Felicity Jones. Felicity Jones is amazing in this film. Where I first met her was in The Theory of Everything, where she played Stephen Hawking's wife. She was great in that, and she's great in this. Two polar opposite roles, but fantastically played by Felicity Jones. She's completely believable in this whole movie, and she kicks ass, if I don't say so myself. My next go-to star is going to be Diego Luna. Now, I've loved this cat in everything I've seen him in. I haven't seen him in a lot, but whenever I see him, he's got a presence on screen that's extremely captivating, and I'm drawn to him every time I watch him. This guy is a phenomenal actor, and with this, he's only going to branch out that much more. You guys got to watch him. If you don't know Diego Luna, check his work out. He's phenomenal. Now, both Diego Luna and Felicity Jones play extremely well off of each other in this film. The thing I like about their characters' interaction is the fact that they both have the same goal and the same purpose, yet they kind of come from different sides of the track, if you will. Different reasons, different things got them to this point, and they question each other, and they kind of battle a little bit back and forth as they're making their way to the same outcome, which I think is great because every now and then it adds a little bit more conflict and layers to the characters in the movies you're watching, which just draws you in that much more. Another dude I want to give a shout out to is Donnie Yen. This cat was killing it. I'm talking about the Ip Man himself. This dude's a badass. In this movie, he plays a blind guy who doesn't necessarily have the Force, but he certainly believes in the Force, and he's definitely willing it to work around him and give him abilities that most blind dudes might not have. I would kind of put him on par with a Denzel Washington from Book of Eli. Another dude I want to give a shout out to is Riz Ahmed. Now, I've seen this guy in a few things, but everything I've seen him in, boom. This dude is legit. First time I saw him was in Nightcrawler. He was banging it next to Jake Gyllenhaal in that movie, and he's killing it in this one. He plays a pilot in this movie, and he also has some significant tasks in this movie that without him, they're not doing what they need to be doing. Now, of course, with every Star Wars film, you're going to get a handful of bad guys, but the main butthead of this entire movie, the guy causing the most problems, would be Orson Krennic, and that's played by Ben Mendelsohn. Now, if you don't know who Ben Mendelsohn is, you gotta do your homework. This guy is great. Once again, another actor that every time I see this guy, he just has that certain presence on screen that draws you in and makes you believe everything that he's got going on is really jumping off. I want to give a shout out to Forrest Whitaker, and I'm going to give a shout out to Mads Mikkelsen. You don't really see much of them in this movie. They are key players, and when they're on screen, they shine. I really wish I would have seen a little bit more of them, but their characters are pretty tight too. Again, I'm not going to break down these characters in much detail and what their jobs are because I want you to go see this movie and I want you to go in as fresh as possible. But just know that all these names that I listed are the key players in my mind, key roles, great actors, phenomenal jobs, awesome performances. So before I break down my likes and dislikes, I want to give Disney a big ups. To me, Disney is an engine that cannot be stopped. They're like Skynet right now. They're about to become self-aware. Y'all better watch out. If you look at every single department of Disney, well, for the most part, Marvel, Disney's own actual properties, and Star Wars, they're killing it in all departments. The only thing they're not putting out, at least that's of quality, is Pirates of the Caribbean. Disney, knock it off, for reals. Other than that, they're killing it across the board. The one thing that I loved the most about Force Awakens was not only was it just a really good movie, hella entertaining, especially as a Star Wars fan, but they changed the game. It starred a woman and a black man. That's great. This movie is also following suit. You have a multiracial cast, a woman that's basically the hero ultimately, and it's also an entertaining film. They're changing the game throughout their Marvel pictures and throughout Star Wars, and I think that's something to be commended. As far as dislikes for this movie, it's far in between. I don't really have a whole lot of dislikes for this movie. I thought it was great all the way around. If I had to nitpick at something and say something I didn't like, it did start off a little bit shaky in the beginning. The way that the characters kind of come together, you know, whatever. Maybe there wasn't as much character development as they could have been, which later down the line, when certain things happen to these characters, you're still going to feel for them, but I wish that it maybe would have hit a little harder given the gravity of the situation. That's about it. Also, I do, like I said before, wish that there was a lot more Mads Mikkelsen. He's a phenomenal actor. First time I saw him was in Casino Royale, and he's been great every time I've seen him. And Forest Whitaker. Forest Whitaker is a force to be reckoned with. I want more of him. I was hoping there would have been more of him in this movie. I'm happy with what we got from all of them, but I just wish there was a little bit more. So if I had to nitpick at something, that would be it. As for the likes, you are going to get some awesome space battles. You're going to get some nail-biting moments where you're like, I don't know if they're going to make it. Is this person going to make it? I don't really know. And then, again, if you are a fan of Star Wars from the beginning and you understand A New Hope and what's coming, you see some bad-ass shit with Darth Vader in the end. That's all I'm going to say. I was on the edge of my seat. I was sweating. I was getting goosebumps. The shit was tight, son. That's all I'm going to say. That, if anything, was the best damn part of the movie. I was out of this world. It was so freaking tight. But other than that, I would definitely suggest you need to see this movie in the theater. If you can see it in IMAX, see it in IMAX. If you can make it to an AMC Prime, go to an AMC Prime, reserve your seat. They got the Dolby Digital sound jumping off. You're going to get the best picture quality. It is a popcorn, peanut M&Ms, shove it in your face, drink your soda type of film. This is a tentpole event. You got to see it in the cinema. Don't try to wait for this one for DVD. Check it out in the theater for sure. Yo, I hope you enjoyed this review. I tried to be as non-fandom crazy as possible and give you some real likes and dislikes and break it down to a certain extent without spoiling anything and leaving a lot of surprise for you when you do go see it. So I hope you enjoyed this review. Other than that, like, subscribe, I'm out.